Meeting to order. Offer an invocation at this time. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day and many blessings that you have given us. We thank you, God, for each and every day of the health, the welfare, just the taking care of us, guiding us through the day. And we ask for your forgiveness of our many shortcomings. We ask that you would continue to look mercifully upon our community, guide us and direct us in the ways that would be pleasing to you. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Smith, nice to have you with us again tonight. Our next item will be the adoption of the business agenda. Everybody's had an opportunity to review it. I'd like to hear a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as stated.
Motion from Councilman Bell. Do we hear a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bryant. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The agenda will be approved. Next we have on the unscheduled public comment, Mr. McDaniel.
I've always wondered if that was on. Always. And can I buy a building downtown for $1 and make the city tear it down for $200,000? And if that's the start of it, well, don't we need to nip that crap in the bud? I know it's legal, but is it ethical and moral? And just because you're trying to hide down an LLC rabbit hole, somebody ought to come down there and get you and straighten you out. But that deal going on down there on the street looks about like the mayor's deal over that Canal Walk to me. It stinks. And that deal might be done with the very same proverbial dollar that the property passed down through 4 people. And you could have used the same dollar to make it legal. You know, the old proverbial dollar that gets passed, that's the dollar I'm talking about. And you can be imagining what you can do with an LLC and $1. I'd just like it looked into, and I would appreciate it. And I appreciate you all having the patience to listen to me. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item we have is item 5, the approval of the City Council meeting minutes for May the 20th.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the May 20th, 25 regular city council meetings as drafted.
Motion by Councilman Steinbach. Do we hear a second? Second by Councilman Jackson. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Minutes will be approved as they are presented. Item 6 is a public hearing. Call on the Planning and Development Director, Ms. Anderson, to present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. Tonight we're here to hold a quasi-judicial public hearing, also referred to as an evidentiary hearing. What is a quasi-judicial hearing? A quasi-judicial hearing are similar to court cases and court decisions, as you must determine whether the evidence provided to you is compliant with general law for that particular situation. You use the land use ordinance as your guide for the development standards for the proposed property. The board must use its best judgment based on factual evidence provided. Some essentials for conducting an evidentiary hearing are to follow procedures, allow parties with standing to participate, present evidence and provide testimony, ensure all witnesses and parties with standing are sworn in prior to testimony, and decisions must be based on competent, material, and substantial evidence, and finally, provide written documentation of whether for or against the final decision made in that hearing. Some key elements of a special use permit process are to hold the public hearing and receive sworn testimony, complete the evaluation worksheet, and make a motion for the final decision. Kimberly Cross, applicant and owner, has submitted a special use permit application for review by City Council to permit an accessory apartment. The property is located at 112 Jeffrey Circle, which is also identified as Halifax County Parcel ID 0911300. The property is approximately .2181 acres and is just south of Bolin Road and west of Robinson Drive and the Roanoke Rapids ETJ. This property is located within an R8 residential zoning district. Single-family residences with accessory apartments are deemed permitted with approval of a special use permit application within this zoning district. Should the request be permitted, the existing accessory structure or garage would be converted to an accessory apartment as a family suite. The unit would have shared access through the existing driveway on the site, and all applicable trades required for the conversion would be subject to review and approval by the Planning and Development Department. Public notices were sent to property owners within 100 feet of the property. It was also placed in a local news outlet and posted on the premises. There has been no communication from property owners at this point regarding for or against the permit request. On your screens, you'll see the subject property. You can see the dwelling, the access drive, and the proposed location of the accessory apartment to the rear of the property. Some items to consider. Is the permit within the Roanoke Rapids jurisdiction, the planning jurisdiction? Yes, the permit is. The permit request is within the Roanoke Rapids ETJ, and it's an accessory apartment deemed permitted in the R8 zone with a special use permit. The request is to convert the existing garage into an accessory apartment. Is the application complete? Yes, the application is complete. Will the development comply with all of the requirements of the land use ordinance if completed as proposed? Yes, it will. The following items are to be considered. Ingress and egress to the property. Staff finds this to be true. We find that the access to the property is existing and there will be no further access required. So there should be no negative impacts to the surrounding properties there. Off-street parking and loading effect on adjacent properties. Again, staff finds no likely negative impacts should the occupants utilize common practices. Refuse disposal. Staff finds no negative impacts. Halifax County provides refuse collection, and the county regulations would apply to this property just like the single-family dwelling and the neighbors. Utilities are available within the area, so staff believes this is true with existing connections coordinated with the appropriate entities. The type, dimensions, and character of screening and buffering for the property. Staff finds screening to be adequate for use that has no expected outside activity adjacent to a residential development. Adequate lighting. Staff believes that the exterior lighting is to be of the norm for a similar property. And lastly, the required yards, open space, and existing trees. Staff believes this is probably true. The lot is currently already developed and in compliance. Staff finds the proposed special use request to be consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and supported. Attached is an aerial photo showing the proposed location, and on your screen you'll see that it's demarcated by a star. Also pictured is the zoning excerpt, which reflects the R8 zoning district in light brown. As you can see in this photo, it's surrounded by R8 residential. Given the proceeding, staff has made the following findings concerning the request. If completed as proposed, the development more probably than not will provide no material endangerment to the public health or safety. Staff believes this is probably true. The applicant shall be required to comply with all applicable state and local codes and ordinances. An assessment of the previously referenced 7 items used to evaluate areas of concern indicate no specific endangerment to the public health or safety. 2, the use will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining or abutting property. Staff believes this is probably true. Staff finds no specific reasons for potential negative impacts on the value of the adjoining or abutting properties. The use will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. Staff believes this is probably true. The proposed use will be residential in nature and in character with the existing surrounding land uses. The use will be in general conformity with the comprehensive development plan, the thoroughfare plan, or other plan officially adopted by the City Council. Staff finds this to be true. The proposed use will agree with the policies of the comprehensive development plan, thoroughfare plan, as well as the land use ordinance and other officially adopted plans of the city. The comprehensive plan future land use map designates this area as suitable for medium-density residential. The property is located within existing city limits, the Roanoke Rapids ETJ, and staff believes it is in conformity with the following comprehensive plan policies. Residential land use 9.1. Innovative land planning techniques shall be encouraged as a means of providing a variety of identified citywide housing needs. 9.3, land uses considered harmful to the health, safety, and welfare of area residents shall be prohibited from infringing upon the livability of residential areas. And 9.4, proposed residential development which would expose residents to harmful effects of incompatible development or environmental hazards shall be prohibited. Subject to your questions, this concludes my presentation. If there are no questions for me, it would now be appropriate to open the hearing for sworn parties with standing to provide testimony prior to making your decision.
If this is approved and someone builds the structure as requested, they would probably not be able to sell that property to another person because of the amount of land that it. Don't you have to have a certain amount of land to be able to sell another dwelling?
So with a special use permit, it would basically almost be kind of like a variance in that way, where it was something that's allowed specifically to this property and receives special permitting. Kind of like a grandfathered situation, you can still sell those properties, no matter how it's designed. At that point, it's kind of accepted. But this, they're going through the proper channels to get the approval, so it would be sold with an accessory apartment. Whether the new purchaser would decide to use it for that reason would be on them at that point. But the permit runs with the land.
So is that a yes or a no? I mean, you gave me a lot of.
Yes, you can still sell it as it
You
is.
can, I mean, could you sell the apartment?
Oh, as an individual?
As an
No, sir.
individual, that's what.
No, sir, because
Okay,
it's
I
one parcel of land. It would
That's
still be
okay.
sold the same.
And
Mhm.
then the other thing, when I built my garage and put an apartment above it,
Mhm.
I was told at that time, been 10-plus years ago,
Mhm.
that only a member of the family could reside in that property. So
That would
the
be
law-
subject to what you would decide today,
Okay,
based on the conditions of the special use permit. We don't identify who can stay and who can go. But if you have a condition that's deemed that, then you could likely do that.
To be clear, the garage is already built. It's going to be
Correct.
converted to an apartment.
Mhm.
Same footprint that's there now.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Anybody have any questions of the planning director before we call to open the public hearing? There being none, I would call at this time the public hearing would be open to receive sworn testimony and evidence on the matter. Anybody that'd like to speak, come forward. Next item, if there's no one wishing to speak for or against it, it would be proper to ask to close the public hearing at this time. So I declare that the public hearing be closed. Okay, you all have a worksheet in there that shows you the process that we need to go through now. The last 2 pages of the agenda documents. So we have A, B, C, and D that we would need a motion on, and if it's favorable, you have a motion there in your packet that you can bring forth. Item A is the request will not materially endanger the public health or safety. You'll hear a motion on that matter.
I make a motion based on the public hearing testimony and the foregoing staff report dated May 27, 2025. It is consensus of the city council that the requested permit would not materially endanger the public health or safety.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Bell. Do we hear a second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Stainback. Is there any more discussion on this matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Item B is on substantially injure the value of adjoining property. You hear such a motion on this?
Mayor, based on the public hearing testimony and the foregoing staff report dated May 27, 2025, it is the consensus of the city council that the requested permit will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining or abutting property.
Okay, motion is by Councilman Strickland. Your second to his motion.
Second.
Second by Councilman Jackson. Is there more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All in opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Item C is will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located.
Mayor, based on the public hearing testimony and the foregoing staff report dated May 27, 2025, it is the consensus of the City Council that the requested permit will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located.
Okay, the motion by Mayor Pro Tem Bryant. Do we hear a second to her motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bell. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. Item D, general conformity with the comprehensive development plan, thoroughfare plan, or any other plan officially adopted by this city council.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion based on the public hearing testimony and the foregoing staff report dated May 27th, 2025. It is the consensus of the city council that the requested permit will be in general conformity with the comprehensive development plan, thoroughfare plan, or other plan officially adopted by the city council.
All right, item 3D, the motion is by Councilman Stainback. Do we hear a second to Councilman's motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Jackson. Is there any more discussion on this matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Section 4 is the final decision. As we all know, all the motions above must be found true to approve the requested permit. That being said, the first 4 have been approved. We move on to item 5, and you have a motion there if someone is inclined to move on this matter.
Mayor, based on the public hearing testimony and the foregoing staff report dated May 27, 2025, it is the consensus of the city council that a requested special use permit be granted to Kimberly Cross for an accessory apartment located at 112 Jeffrey Circle with the conditions set forth by the land use ordinance and any other conditions that the city council may suggest.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Jackson and a second by Councilman Steinbeck. Is there any more discussion on this matter? Just before we vote, that last sentence says any other conditions that the city council may suggest, so that there's an opportunity if the city council wanted to make some other request or suggestion to do so before the permit would actually be issued. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If there's no more questions, we call for a vote.
I have a question.
Okay, Ms. Bryant?
Did we say that they had to be family members residing there or not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it could be used as like an Airbnb or something at some point, or not?
It would be used as an accessory apartment only, as that's how we are defining it in here. There's a separate use for short-term rentals, which would apply to Airbnbs, so not an Airbnb.
Okay.
I would have legal concerns, sorry to interject, but I would have legal concerns about tying it to a family member or something like
Okay.
that.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote now. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion will be approved.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're on 7, new business. Call on the Finance Director, Ms. Johnson, for budget amendment.
Good evening. I would like to, the police department, they received $391.30 in OSC money. I would like to ask the council to adopt budget amendment 2025-16.
I make a motion to adopt budget amendment ordinance 2025.16 in the amount of $391.30 for OSC unauthorized substance tax.
Second.
Okay, the motion is by Councilman Jackson and second by Councilman Bell. Is there any more discussion on this matter? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, no. The motion will be approved. And I believe you have the next item. Budget
Yes,
amendment.
I would like to ask council to approve the budget amendment 2025.17 in the amount of $1,422,715 to decrease the fiscal year 24-25 budget of revenues to revise the anticipated revenue projections.
Can you-
break that down a
can-
little bit more?
Yeah, can you explain that just a little bit more before we vote on it about, or
So
one of y'all?
basically, I'm reducing what I projected for revenue because it was over projected, and this is what the auditor suggests I do so that at the end of the year, we don't have to report to the LGC on any.
So basically, you want to make sure that this goes back, the amendment has to actually balance the books.
Right.
So you have a zero balance budget.
We'll get close to it,
Right.
yeah.
For this year?
For this year.
Okay. Everybody understand that? Because it's a lot of money, and we're trying to make sure everybody understands.
Basically, as a governing body, if we approve the budget, we have to have that balanced budget by state law.
Okay, thank you. We still need a motion on to approve it.
I make a motion to adopt budget amendment ordinance number 2025.17 in the amount of $1,422,715 for the fiscal year 2024 through 25 budget.
Okay, the motion is by Councilman Bell. Your second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Steinbeck. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion will be approved. All right, thank you, ma'am. I'd call on the city manager for a public hearing for the fiscal year 2025-26 budget.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Last week, we had a special meeting on Thursday, the 29th, where the budget message and the summary of the proposed FY26 budget was presented to you. And initially, we had intended for tonight to be a public hearing, but really, we have not had enough time to allow ourselves and the public a chance to review and comment on that. And so what we're proposing is for the council to set a public hearing to receive citizen input on the fiscal year 26 budget on Tuesday, June the 17th, during our regularly scheduled meeting that begins at 5:30 PM. And council that night can receive public comments, and depending on how that goes, if you want to vote on the budget that night, you can, or you can schedule a schedule a separate special meeting soon thereafter, as long as the budget is approved before July the 1st. So at this time, just wanted to ask for council action to set that hearing for June the 17th during our regular business meeting, and then also let you know that your budget notebooks are provided in front of you this evening. There's a copy of the budget message in your packet for tonight, but in this binder behind tab 1, all of the line item expenses by department are provided, broken out. The first page behind tab 1 is just the general expenses by category, so you can see what order they're in the following pages behind it. Behind tab number 2 is the proposed fiscal year 26 salary schedule, salary and grade schedule with the FLSA exemption statuses as well. This information was prepared by the MAPS Group vendor. Behind tab number 3, you'll have the proposed fee schedule for the upcoming fiscal year. Tried to keep costs to a minimum as they currently are for our residents. And then behind the next tab 4 is the document that shows kind of a 10-year look at our revenues and expenditures over the year and our fund balance growth as well. So this information is good. If it's not already there, it will be on our website promptly by the end of the day tomorrow, and we welcome public comments and input on the budget. If anyone wanted to submit any written comments between now and the 17th, we'd welcome that as well. So citizens are encouraged to either come to City Hall and review a budget notebook, or they can view it online, and encouraged to attend the public hearing on June the 17th as scheduled. Subject to any questions you may have, that concludes my presentation of this item. And I will say, this is a draft budget. It's a snapshot in time. And so it can be modified and changed up until adoption without requiring any additional hearings and things like that. So the first pass is out and in public and meeting that statutory requirement. And so we can anticipate some changes between now and then, but that's why we have this time here now to review these line items and make any adjustments that are necessary.
On the information, we have received it a couple of times, but this was in the June 3rd meeting. Under planning, what is the figure that there was a really large cut in the amount that was requested? It says operating expenses under planning, $551,000 requested by the department, and $511,000 was cut. What is that?
Are you referring to the proposed budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The majority of that represents a reduction in the requested demolition funds until be able to schedule those demolition funds when we have more accurate figures for each structure.
And do we, I know this year I think we spent most of the power bill money. Are we still considering spending that for resurfacing this year?
We are looking at some other opportunities. Primarily, first, we'd like to see the pavement study completed throughout town for all of the streets where they're graded and ranked, and then there's a resurfacing plan that would be associated with that, so that when we do receive our funding, we can spend it in a progressive manner, as far as with the proper planning and diligence applied to that. But the majority of the resurfacing funds are going to be used for other eligible expenses. But that study is an eligible expense in that.
And we've got some that have very little, if any, swell or anything of that nature, and we've had some problems in the Jefferson Street, they were running along Jefferson Street.
Mhm.
We called from people that we had a lot of rain. But there's no swell or anything in those alleys to water running down instead of just running off the alley into people's yards.
Well, we encourage citizens to report their complaints to the Public Works Department or to the city in general, and but if there's any specific situations. Okay, and then just the action requested being to set the public hearing, please, by motion.
Something on public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing date to receive citizen input on the fiscal year 2025-26 budget on June the 17th, 2025.
Okay. Have a motion by Councilman Stainback and a second by Councilman Bales. Any more discussion on the matter? There is none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion will be approved and the meeting will be set. I know you gave us right much information. You'll give us your report. That kind of.
I'll be brief. To go over some of the reporting of activities throughout the city, the fire department has completed its annual hydrant testing, and the newest truck that has been manufactured is in Rocky Mount and is undergoing upfit at the vendor there. So it will be arriving home in Roanoke Rapids and put into service here in upcoming weeks. One of the things we've observed lately, and more so than normal, are the increase in the number of residential house fire calls. There have been several fires within the last few months, and according to the fire department, most of the causes of these fires could have been preventable either through actions or causes like unattended cooking, misuse of extension cords, and sometimes those fires are undetermined, but they are increasing their efforts to share public safety tips in the media as well, because it could happen very quickly to anyone. Under the Planning and Development Department, just some updates on some of the projects that are visible throughout town, including Stateside Landing, the residential community development that is underway and going very well. Express Oil on on 95 Premier Boulevard is moving along as well, with some of those inspections being completed. There's some proposals for some upfits at Laurel Glen on Clearfield Drive. And also Planet Fitness moving forward with a location at 1558 Julian R. Alsbrook Highway, which is the former Staples and Badcock Furniture location. Moving along there, Parks and Recreation has had several things going on here. In the Department of Fun, there's some new pickleball courts that are nearing completion at Rochelle Park. This project was funded through tourism dollars through occupancy taxes, and we have received the benches that were donated from the generosity of some local residents who, in memory of a resident who grew up playing tennis on the courts. Excuse me. The splash pad was inspected recently, and the button on it that makes the water come out has gone bad, and so staff have made some efforts to replace that button, and now the system needs reprogramming, and so as soon as that is done, the splash pad will be up and running for the season. We know how popular it is out there at Challoner, especially as these days get hotter. On Friday this week, project graduation will be taking place at TJ Davis, which is an all-nighter starting Friday night through Saturday morning for our high school seniors as a safe alternative to other after graduation type of activities. The Senior Center has several activities and events that are listed on their calendar in your packet as well. The library summer reading program called Color Your World, there's a flyer in front of you about this tonight as well. And sign up for the summer reading program begins June 9th. Or the program begins June 9th, and so there'll be several weekly challenges, and they'll take place throughout July as well. This month is going to be very busy, especially out at our baseball fields for the tournament that was taking place June 26th through the 29th at Ledgerwood. So our staff have been diligently working to get that in as best shape as possible, especially with the weather elements. The next couple parts, or really the next half page and the next page of your report in front of you, is reflective of the recent storm damage that we have had and how it's impacted various facilities and aspects of the work that we do. The Roanoke Canal Trail, the trees have been cut along the trail, but not all have been cleared up and removed at this time. We appreciate the efforts and the assistance and the teamwork by our departments as well, and those who have helped to clean up throughout the city in general too, because the help and assistance has allowed us to be able to get these facilities reopened and into use. And of course, while the trail is passable, we expect users to always exercise safety when out and about. Some of the items of storm damage that are reported from the Parks and Rec Department include bleachers that flipped over at Ledgerwood. And Emery Park was probably one of the hardest hit parks as far as tree damages go. And with the help of the Forest Service and local volunteers and our staff as well, our Public Works Department and Parks and Recreation Department and even Fire Department helping to cut trees throughout this process have been very helpful. Long Park had some damage as well, and then also the playground at Rochelle Park was damaged. The Public Works Department continues to maintain their regular daily services, including trash collection and other routine services in the wake of the May 16th storm. We even had 3 different trees that fell throughout this past weekend that caused some power outages locally as well. So from the action that we took last week to establish a storm fund, we're continuing to use our local contractors to help with these heavier hit areas and using their equipment to help with stump collection, grinding, and so forth. Again, we are preparing to submit our letter to the Director of Emergency Management for North Carolina requesting the assistance through the emergency declaration for reimbursement of our cost. And again, just want to compliment all of our employees for the efforts that they've done. They've been selfless and really giving their all in a time that's been very difficult, and we appreciate their dedication to that. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report for this evening.
Anybody have any questions? If there's nothing else that needs to come before the council tonight, we call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Stainback, second. Second by Ms. Bryant. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Adjourn.